What's the best stats for Red Hood? Okay, glad you asked, because we are now in the portion of the guide. Well. Good that you asked, because I actually have the updated Red Hood guide. Let's do this, boys. So, what you actually need for Overload is for her is attack and LA. Attack and LA elemental, because that's like the end game stuff. Is specialist, like you want them to like just destroy the elemental advantage that they are at, and attack is being the highest damage that they could do. To show that, I actually kind of used Mr. Altrus's math here, and I had a comparator where I tried to put in where if I did full charge speed versus full attack percentage, and full attack percentage get more damage over full charge speed. So attack percentage is a lot more, but then the second after attack and LA is charge speed. Charge speed is pretty much like the best damage on that, and I have looked into like what if we have like, you know, a full charge speed, full attack, full charge speed, and then like what about like a little bit of just one charge speed and then like a few max ammo. And the gameplay changes. So autoing will actually, with more charge speed, autoing will get you a lot more damage, and yeah, so you can see here. But then the full just more max ammo, you have to do fast shooting. Mind you, this is fast shooting with 50 millisecond, and if you are as boomer as me, it would be 100 millisecond human delay. Then this one would be lower. Also, these are all fast shooting. So yeah, anyways, we got a boomer hands right there. So yeah, charge speed is just way better, and I will also explain why that is the case. And added charge damage last. These are all good lines. I personally think that, like, you know, if you're rolled that and you know you're not looking to min max her that much yet, then any of these work out fine. They do all increase. More charge speed is better, and this is something that Mr. Ultras gave me as an example. Actually, it's it's a very simplified example to give you an idea how good, what's the reason why charge speed is good and why adding more charge speed is even better. So like basically assume that you have a full charge. It takes about 1000 milliseconds, which is 1 second for full charge at 0% charge speed. And so if we have 0% current charge speed, getting 5% charge speed will make the time from 1000 millisecond to 950 millisecond. So that's basically like a 5%, like, you know, speed gain, right? Like essentially, and over a period of time, that's essentially like over time, that's 5% gain. Meanwhile, actually, if we have 90% charge speed, so assuming that it's still 1 second to do full charge, if we have 90% charge speed, it makes it so that you only take 100 millisecond, right? Like 90% minus 90% of 1000 is it becomes 100. But then if you have 100 millisecond and then you pick up an extra 5% more charge speed, that charge time becomes 100 millisecond to 50 millisecond. So that basically, instead of just like a 50%, a 5% gain from that, it's like it becomes like, you know, 50%. So basically you have increasing return up until 98.88%. Because the and the 98.88, this is something that we've figured out already. It's 99%. We call it 99%. It's almost, yeah, 99% for Alice. So right, that's basically the idea on it. Because of how frame things work, it makes it so that it kind of rounds it up so that you'll instant frame it to max charge. And this is why, like, yeah. So what are the chances of us getting 98.88? I don't know. Maybe future units. So yeah. Meanwhile, like for example, why people are comparing it, like why is charge speed better than charge damage, right? Like Mr. Ultra said, like, yeah, so if we do 100 damage at 100% charge, you do at 250% charge, that means that you do 250 damage. But then, and then if you pick up a 12% charge damage, all you get is 12 more damage, which is 262 to, from 250 it becomes 262, so 4.8. But then if you get another 12% charge damage, it will become 274 to 262, which is only 4.5% more damage. So as you can see, the more you keep getting charge damage, it's like less effect in your previous. So like you have diminishing every time you get more. Capiche, chat? Capiche? Capiche. Okay. Second thing, and with that in mind, I would like to make a correction from the previous guide that we talked about there, and prioritize skill 1 over skill 2. However, if you did prioritize skill 2 over skill 1, don't worry about it. I was looking at the numbers. It wasn't that heavily, like the difference is not that much, so like don't worry about it. But you can, you know, if you have like level 8 skill 2 now, then you can start racing level skill 1 from there on. It's fine. Eventually you do want to eventually get 10 10 10 anyway, so at the end of the day it doesn't really matter. So but if you have to prioritize which one is which, then skill 1 should be more. I've done like the comparison here. In here there's like skill 1 versus skill 2, and then like if I kept skill 1 at 7, skill 2 at 10, almost always in the situation you will gain more benefit raising skill 1 first. There is a situation where I did see more damage on skill 2 instead, and it's a situation where you did not get any attack percentage on your overload and have a little bit more max ammo. So if you have more max ammo and 0% attack, then I think that's where skill 2 ended up more damage. Yeah, just weird. But in almost like a lot of scenarios, it's pretty much like, since you're aiming for more charge speed, and even more charge speed means like higher discrepancy also, so you would probably want to just go upgrade skill 1, like to make it easier. And then the cube, it's pretty much still the same thing. You could use Bastion or Resilience. My personal preference is still Resilience, just because you know, when you're reloading, sometimes like when you're in Bastion and you're reloading and it takes time, and then you have to do mechanics, sometimes you get caught off guard on that one. So I still my personal preference is still Resilience. But if you did use Mr. Ultra's calculator, you can like enter the different things, and it will kind of tell you like the different, what's the optimal play if you want to min-max your damage. And obviously, again, like I would probably primarily look at the manuals, what manuals and autos are. And as you'll see that sometimes there's not that much big difference. So for the most part, they are roughly the same. But in general, more ammo, if you have more ammo on your overload, you go manual fast shoot playstyle, and then you use Resilience. That's typically it. And if you have more charge speed, you could do manual, you could do auto if you really want. But since it's like a full charge playstyle, yeah, I would probably go with auto. And then you can choose between Resilience or Bastion. And I already talked about the different teams and units, but since this is an updated guide, I'll talk about it. You have Dorothy, Litter, Volume, Miranda, N102. I looked at Yan. Yan does provide less than N102. Just pick N102. And if you have to decide between Yan or N102. And there's for B2, you can Naga and Tia is the best one. Blanc and Noir coming second, and then Novel, and then Summer Helm. And then you can use Naga without Tia. It is actually Naga on her own is actually not bad. If you didn't have any Tia, then I would you can use Naga still. And then Unidala, Quincy, Rupee. That's like the last one. These four are roughly all equal in terms of the like kind of overall contribution on her damage. And I already talked about in this guide the different teams. I would just like refer this to this old guide. I still think they're roughly all the same. Everything so you can just skip to this part. Units burst 1, burst 2, burst 1+2, burst 3. Like me talking about the different like units. But the TLDR on this particular guide is just to talk about like some good synergy. Alice, some people were asking like, would you ever use Red Hood with Alice? And I would say actually yes, in some situations, in probably Union Raid situation where it's like against neutral element and then the boss is weak against Pierce. That's something I would consider actually using. And then pretty much like you use Maxwell, that's like the highest synergy. And other than that, the way I would see it, her standard team is either Litter, Volume, Doherty with Tia Naga, and then Maxwell. That's probably her standard team. If you're going solo raid, you could consider the solo carry, Miranda, Dala solo carry. If you don't have Naga, you can use Tia plus Rupee. And then there's the Bunnies, Litter Bunnies girls team as well. And I would say those are kind of like the main synergistic ones. I already talked about it in this other video. The different like burst 1, burst 2, 1+2, and then burst 3. Like the pros and cons on them. They Snow White is still viable, things like that. But yeah, so that's the updated guide. So you can see, yeah, this is insane. Like she is actually doing insane damage. Wow. The new top DPS especially on Pierce scenarios, and Modernia, I think Modernia might still be top. I will have to see, because you're probably gonna use them in different teams, right? Like I would use Modernia with the Bunnies, and then I would use Red Hood with Tia Naga. Technically, you can use Red Hood with the Bunnies also with Modernia, but if you have Maxwell, right, then it would be good to put Red Hood with Maxwell, because that's really where you can get value out of Red Hood. Should you use Red Hood Maxwell versus Red Hood Snow White? I think it depends on the boss. I said about it on the previous video also. Red Hood is more good on sustained, like consistent DPS, and especially where you can constantly abuse the Pierce situation. Meanwhile, like if the Pierce situation only happens at specific times, I could see Snow White being better. But yeah, right now, you'll just have to look into that. But right now, Red Hood is looking like a unit that you can pretty much use in pretty much any team. Like, because that was how Alice was anyways before. Like, she is a unit that you can pretty much use on pretty much any team, and Red Hood is looking to be the same. Holy.